Welcome to Winning STL, where we have conversations about how St. Louis can best compete and win in the battle for talent, jobs, growth, and equity. Winning STL is presented by Purina, who creates richer lives for pets and the people who love them, and has proudly called St. Louis home since 1894. Today, I'm speaking with Penny Pennington, managing partner of Edward Jones, a leading financial services company dedicated to helping 8 million clients with their financial plans. Penny, thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for taking part in the event today.
Ian, it's a pleasure to be with you and your audience.
So Penny, you've been in St. Louis for a while now. What do you think the strengths of our region are?
So I came here in 2006, Ian, but I did come here after living in a number of pretty remarkable cities. I grew up in Nashville before it was what it is today.
Right.
Lived in Atlanta and South Florida, and I moved here from the Detroit metropolitan area. And what I saw immediately in St. Louis is what we all see and love about St. Louis are the assets that we have, the cultural assets, the arts, the sports assets that we have, the livability of our city and our region. We have a long history and a story to tell about our ability to make things, to build things. This is a place where families want to grow and come back to. And I immediately was just inspired by the city. Now, I will also say that I was inspired by the opportunity that this region has. What I felt when I first came here, and I still feel it a little bit, not quite as much, is we don't talk really nicely about ourselves. I don't quite understand why that is, because I think we can all be better boosters. But what I see is tremendous opportunity here, right here in the middle of the country.
So it sounds like that we need to do a better job of telling our story because there's a good story to tell here.
I think that's exactly right. One of the things that I'm reading a lot about right now is post-pandemic, workers and businesses are thinking a lot about where they want to live, where they want to locate, and that some regions and cities like St. Louis are showing up on people's radar screens differently than they might have been pre-pandemic, when people would tend to look at the coast as sort of the
Sure.
obvious places
Sure.
to go for workers and for innovation. But when you have innovation districts like we have in St. Louis, when you have educational assets like we have in St. Louis, when you have a kind of affordability and livability with these assets that we have in this region, there's a different story for our region to tell in terms of our wage growth and prosperity.
So Penny, we know things aren't perfect. There are things that we can improve. What would you like to see us prioritize to be better at?
Yeah. Well, I want to be clear that the tools that I operate with are the tools of business. When you have a vision, an aligned set of leaders, an aligned mindset around what you're trying to accomplish, a plan to do that, right, and then a set of measures and accountability systems that let you know whether you're winning or whether you need to make a pivot. That's the world I operate in.
So keeping score is important.
Keeping score is important, but what's really important is also keeping score for a game that's worthy to play. And the game that's worthy to play is one that lifts other people up. So as I look at the STL 2030 jobs plan that Greater St. Louis Inc. and a number of stakeholders are looking at as something of a vision, we've really identified some focus areas. We've identified human capital. The human condition in our region is something that we need to focus on. Public infrastructure. Third thing we've identified is business and economic development, those wins of bringing new businesses, new organizations, and growing new organizations in our community. And then finally, public safety. If we look at those 4 focus areas, I think what our regional stakeholders can rally around is all the nodes of impact, that's what I call it, all the strategies under each under those 4 areas of focus that you could point to.
So Penny, in the job that you have, are there examples in other cities that you've seen that you would say, wow, this is something that we can emulate in this region?
Yeah, I love learning new things. And so I have the privilege of seeing big places and small places and how community builders and businesses are coming together to help those places thrive. Sure. And we are on every town square in North America. I get very energized. A group of us was just in Atlanta looking at Atlanta Beltline. The Beltline is similar to the Brickline Greenway in St. Louis. Beltline has been growing over the last 10 or 15 years. It's an infrastructure asset that knits together their region. Atlanta's a very big region.
Right. Well, this is a great segue to the Brickline, a project I know you have a lot of passion behind. You've been an eloquent presenter on the topic before. So to people watching who might not know all that much about it, maybe you could kind of set the stage for what it is and why it's important to you.
Sure. So Brickline Greenway is a partnership. It's a public-private partnership to build a civic infrastructure. The infrastructure itself is a pathway from Gateway Arch National Park to Forest Park, from Fairground Park in the north to Tower Grove in the south. And so when you think about that, just envision that pathway. It links all of those incredible cultural and sporting and workplace assets in our region. Assets that have been developed over years and assets that are newly developed. Think about NGA and geospatial, the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center and District that's being formed there. Think about our park assets. Think about our arts assets. And think about assets on the north side that have not been invested in as greatly in the past few decades. It's about a $245 million project. A portion of that, about $75 million, will be unlocked by private money and private donation. Then what unlocks from there is development, is inclusive economic development. This is a pathway that helps get people to jobs. It helps bring people together. It grows public safety. So remember those 4 focus areas I talked about? The Brickline Greenway pulls all of that together in really a remarkable project that's unlike anything else in our nation. What we've learned is that the return on the dollars that go into the ground for these kinds of pathways, really the return comes from the development up to a quarter mile on each side of these pathways. People look at this infrastructure project and they say, wow, this is an area of great development. This is a place that I want to put a business. It's a place I want to raise a family. It's a place I want to innovate around. It's a place that I want to be part of. And we know it when we go to other cities and you look at those infrastructure projects and you say, we could do this in St. Louis.
And I love knitting together what I think is a real strength of the city of St. Louis, which is our unique neighborhoods that have this great character, great housing stock, great architecture, and the idea of linking them together.
I agree with you completely. This is something where families look and say, gosh, that's a really nice part of that region. I'd like to live in a place that has that.
So Penny, you're a very busy executive. Your free time is, I'm sure, very precious. What's a perfect weekend for you in St. Louis?
Well, my weekends are pretty routinized, and that has to do with Forest Park and a long run every Saturday morning in Forest Park. We go out to lunch as a family on Saturday and Sunday. And then I go to a museum, look at some of our great cultural assets, performing arts and sports. And do you know that St. Louis is a great beer town?
I've heard. Some have said, yes.
One of those on the weekend, too.
Penny, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for having us, and I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Ian, and to your audience.